Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Are you watching the banks? You know, the banks that are going to hand that money over? The banks that need liquidity, the banks that need bridge currencies. Are you watching what's going on with them? Because if you are, there's no way alarms aren't going off in your mind. There's no way you're not super bullish on the new financial system, the bank coins. Listen to this. Two major things are going on right now. What do you mean by this? This article is titled, U.S. Banks Tap Fed Repo Facility as Overnight Rates Climb, Signaling Funding Strain. Now, my mind would immediately ask, how long has the funding strain been going on? Can you tell me that? Or are you being led to believe that this cause that they're presenting you? Oh, I'm always really careful when someone tries to lead my mind a certain way. There's a reason they're trying to lead your mind a certain way. How long has the funding strain been going on? Now, that's the first thing that my mind would ask. Second thing I would ask, what does that mean? And where does it lead? Let's go here. Let's go here for a little bit more clarification. Okay, wait, you know what? Let me scroll down for a bit. Bear with me one moment. I want to get you all this good information. Let me just read a little bit from the article first, and then we'll clarify. Okay, the U.S. banks, it says here, this is from Reuters.com. U.S. banks borrowed $6.5 billion from the Federal Reserve Standing Repo Facility, SRF, on Wednesday. Right. That's interesting. That's interesting. You had to borrow. Why would you have to borrow if you're doing so well? We'll get back to that. Central bank data showed and repurchase rates rose, suggesting tightness in meeting funding In meeting funding obligations with large net treasuries, settlement due this week. Interesting. Now let's go here for a little bit of clarification. That way they can't get over on you by using certain verbiage, certain words, nomenclatures. They bury a lot under very technical wording to lead people away from the truth of what's going on here. There's a new system coming up. That's why Ripple's trying to become a bank and Circle's trying to become a bank, or they want subsidiary banks. They'll probably purchase a few banks, just like the people, the companies in the UK are trying to do in the US. If they could do it, why wouldn't US companies just go ahead and do that? And if that's the easy road, but shh, they don't want to speak about that. Look all of this up. Look everything up that I'm saying right now. Do you like this type of content? Because we're about to light this on fire right now. I'm telling you right now. And that means that we're about to get this fuse lit thing started. Take those powerful hands and hit that like button a few times. Funding strain, Listen to this here. Funding strain in the banking sector is an exacerbated state where it becomes either unusually difficult or increasingly expensive for banks to secure the short-term cash they require to meet their daily obligations. Let me say that again. That doesn't sound like a problem. That doesn't sound like these banks are weaker than they present themselves to be. See, we can talk about it, but the people that are in the system, they can't talk about it. They'll get into trouble, so everything gets buried. Someone's sending out the information now. It's just that once again, it gets buried. If people like us, researchers here, you and I, don't bring this to the forefront, no one knows. And that's how, number one, they get caught up in bank runs and bank collapses and accounts get frozen, etc. Number two, they wouldn't know even if they wanted to profit off of the downfall of the banks and the rise of the new system, they wouldn't know. Because most people are not aware of the precarious position that the banks are in. And even if you ameliorate on the subject, they still might not believe you because of the indoctrination, the conditioning. But this is proof. I mean, what do you want to go with this? You want to go with the overall debt problems globally, which we're about to get into. You want to go with this commercial real estate problem. They have so many problems. And that borrowing, Are they able to do that? Like before? Remember, they had that certain institution they set up that was akin to being a bailout system where they were able to borrow unlimited funds and prop themselves up. Is that still going on? Right, we'll get there. So once again, it says it becomes increasingly onerous for banks to secure the short-term cash they require to meet their daily obligations. There's problems festering. This is why they're running. They're running towards the new financial system. They're getting pressure put on them because some of them are not so perspicacious to understand the problem that they're facing. So you have large entities, and sometimes they're wrong, but this time they're right. Like Swift and others, and BIS, the BIS and IMF saying, listen, you need to adopt this new DLT system now. Don't wait, you're going to get left behind. All this stuff they say is to push them forward into the new system because they have to. They don't want to see that type of contagion. Don't get me wrong. Those banks go down, gold skyrockets. Those banks go down, XRP and these types of assets, in my humble opinion, not financial advice, skyrocket. And they know it. That's why they're buying it all up, or else they would not. One needs to start asking themselves, okay, they're buying up all of this XRP, Solana for treasuries. Look that up. Google search that now. That's public. That's widely known now. They're buying up all the gold. Why? Okay, if they bought these things, they expect them to go to astronomical levels, which, of course, for gold, there's an obvious catalyst, which is central banks propping them up. That's just a fact. They've been doing historical buying. Google that as well, because I see some article writers coming out. And it's like, what are you doing? They're like, yeah, central banks are propping up gold like it's a silly thing or like it's nescience. It's not. That's literally what's been going on. Anybody can look this up. I mean, you could go to the World Gold Council, Kitco. There's something, that's another thing. In my humble opinion, I think this is about to be a dangerous time of misinformation. I really do. Question everything and everybody. Question me, question whoever else out there, question everything. And look it all up. I'll say that because how does one, as article writers, go against what actually is and try to make it seem nonsensical? Do you not want people to get into gold? You don't want regular people to get into gold? Then that raises the question with something that's even more involved in covert activities, and that's exactly what it is. Like the bank coins, they would bury that even more because the explosion in price should be much, much greater than what most are anticipating or even know about. But let's go back to here. Hold on. Wait. You think that's it? That's not it. Let's keep going. Wait. So, in simple terms, it means the wellspring of readily available money is beginning to run dry. Beginning to run dry. Did you know that? Did you know they're having these problems? So, obviously, you could use something that you have as a treasury, a reserve, that also has the capability, XRP, to be utilized in pools, liquidity pools, which you could do whatever you want with that. Once it's in a closed system, a network, RippleNet, right? And the banks take over the bulk of XRP, run that price up, and now they have a liquidity pool to pull from any time that they want. You don't see how that might work. And they have the private ledger. They know most people are going to sell their XRP long before that price skyrockets, so the banks could buy that up. What happened well, I know YouTube had some problems. They said there was an outage for like 800,000 to 1 million people the other day, so I don't know who saw the video, who didn't. But in that video yesterday, did you see the proof at the end of the Bitcoin, from the Bitcoin article? Did you see that? Go screenshot that article, look that article up. What did they do when the price went down? What was a record? They've been buying everything in sight. As far as crypto, bank coins and Bitcoin. That's the name of the game. Why? For control with the bank. When it comes to the bank coins, you even have, you have the private ledger. You have them buying astronomical amounts of bank coins, right? Then on top of that, you have Ripple heightening the privacy aspect. That's not for retail. That's not for regular people. That's for banks. Wait, did you see the other video? The last two videos, go there and just, even if you don't watch the entirety of those videos, get those articles, okay? Screenshot those articles. You can just skip those, go to the chapters, screenshot those articles, pull them up on your device, right? From those websites, whatever, and save them. Garlane House himself said he was having meetings on in New York. This is weeks after BlackRock said they were attempting to get more companies in New York into crypto. Then this is also after they had an outward display of support for Ripple. XRP is in the game so hardcore, so deep, it's unbelievable. Bullish can't even be the word used, but we just don't have a better word. I say super bullish, and this is my humble opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Tons of people every day disagree with me. Not a problem. I simply state my thoughts, my opinion. That's it. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm merely presenting my thoughts as a researcher and what I find. So they can utilize, that was the whole point, they can utilize liquidity pools, private liquidity pools that they will generate. Most people won't know about it. If we may not know about it at all. In this private ecosystem that they're going to build, there's going to be multiple banks connected together. Ripple is the new Swift, in my humble opinion. I don't think, from what I've seen, read their documents and then look at what Ripple is doing. Look at all the connections. Look at all the banks that are a part of that utilize Swift, that are shoulder to shoulder and hand in hand with Ripple now. Look at that. Why is that? If they're so satisfied with the Swift system, then why are they so close with Ripple? Why is Ripple so confident? Why are all the heavy hitters going to Ripple? Why does Ripple keep putting XRP? They putting XRP out at the forefront in every powerful conversation that they're having. Meanwhile, you are publicly witnessing stablecoins get ripped down. ECB has ripped them down. BIS has ripped them down. I'm trying to think. Was somebody from the Fed recently talking about vulnerabilities of stablecoin? Just type in stable. How could we put this? Financial figures or banks in a Google search or whatever you use that have spoken against stablecoins, and look at the long list, and put recently, by the way, recently or this month, whatever, this year, and look at the long list. There's a reason for that. Liquidity they're going to get from bank coins. Being able to conduct business globally, you need bridge currencies. You get that from bank coins. Then you have other bank coins that are, going to have, well, XRPL has AI. You had about 2 or 3 companies building AI on the XRPL. So that's there. But you have other companies like Solana, Bankcoin also, that are the best of the best as smart contracts. They have everything. Everything. It's all lining up. So it says here, in simple terms, going back to this to complete this here, in simple terms, it means the wellspring of readily available money is beginning to run dry, or the price of drawing from it is soaring, leading to a penury of liquidity. What did they used to say? My apologies if I'm a little excited. I did hit the desk a little bit. Hopefully it's not too loud in your ear. My apologies. I'm a little excited. I am. My energy gets up. I'm not always like this, obviously. Liquidity. Interesting that Ripple used to say that all the time. They knew. Unequivocally. So then the explanation of this goes a little bit further when they're speaking about overnight rates climb. That could be a little confusing to people. We hear all about these rates and etc. But there's clarification here. I looked it up. It says here, this refers to overnight rates climb. This refers to the interest rate in the interbank market. who specializes in interbank payments. And with the specialization in interbank payments, XRP, with that specialization comes the remedying of, or the attempting to remedy a myriad of problems like this as well in those particular systems. There's no way that's not programmed into the system. In order to operate within the system, you have to be able to address all of the possible problems that could arise. But let's keep going. So this refers to the interest rate in the interbank market, specifically the repo repurchase agreement market, where banks borrow money from each other for just one day. Folks, you don't think that Ripple in all of the, if it does acquire this banking license and creates a bank, in all the revenue that they're going to generate, which will be astronomically greater than most banks have over time. Of course, I'm not talking about in an instant, in like a day or a month, I'm talking about over years, right? You don't think that they also would be involved in this, especially if they get that particular licensing where they're dealing directly with the Fed and have access to those particular banking avenues? I would think so. It says, when these rates escalate unexpectedly, it signals that lenders are becoming recalcitrant. What? Or are demanding a much higher premium. Either way, does it make a difference? It leads to the same pathway. I mean, you could tell me if you're seeing this in a different way. All right. I'm always willing to listen. I'm always willing to learn. So much higher premium for lending out their cash. This indicates the money is becoming scarce in the private system. Sounds like a problem, in my humble opinion. You don't think so? All right, we could go deeper with this. I don't want to make the video too long, but when you see those longer videos, just know I found something. That's what it means. I found something that's worth. I have a lot to say about it, a lot of research that I've done. Okay, now I want to go here because we had another major thing that's been cooking, and I had a great article I was going to cover, and I did not. This was about a week ago. IMF was talking about global debt issues, right? Then they stopped, and then they began talking about specifically U.S. debt problems. Then a couple of articles came out about that a few days after that, and now they're back. They're back once more talking about global debt problems, and so I take that as a sign. Do you want to be honest? I just said to myself, why do I keep seeing this? Okay, let me look into this. Because I've been following the global debt and U.S. debt for a long time. I just wanted to know what they were talking about. But then once I saw the other article, the first one that we covered, I said, oh, all of these problems are compiling, right? In an already weakened system. This is why they must come out and address these things right now. And this is why the IMF is being so vehement with global powers. And in particular, they were very vehement with the U.S. about, hey, lower that debt right now. Although the U.S. is going to do what it wants to do. So this article came out. This is what it's titled. IMF issues stark warning on global government debt. Why? What's the angle here? What do you think? So, like I said, just like in that first article, just like where they're talking about the banks and this particular revenue or this particular capital running dry, then we saw articles come out recently about commercial real estate once again being the thorn in the global banking system side. The global debt also can exacerbate these particular problems and cause bank collapses, folks. That's what this is all about. The financial system, when it comes down to it, their baby, the elites, the systems that control the world, their baby is the legacy financial system. And it looks like they're in major trouble. Banks could there could be some bank collapses. I don't know when, but there's so many at risk. We've gone over that before. Thousands in the U.S. alone. My apologies. There's there's got to be some pollen in my chest or something. I beg your pardon. That's why I'm just trying to catch my breath just very briefly. Let me go here. The IMF on U.S. debt and banks. So I want to jump right into this. The global debt, the U.S. debt. If there's no one to borrow from, if the U.S.'s reputation is sullied and their standing is lowered, and no one wants to participate in the U.S. debt system, then who does the U.S. Borrow from in order to save the banks? They can't. But wait, let me not put it in such an uneloquent way. So here, high government debt negatively affects banks. The danger for banks comes from a connection known as the, quote, the bank sovereign nexus, unquote, which is a two-way street of risk. So, first bullet point, banks get hit directly. The safe assets, quote unquote, safe assets, you know, those government issued assets, become risky. Banks keep a large portion of their money invested in their home country's government bonds because they are considered the safest possible asset. Next bullet point, if the government's debt grows so large that investors begin to worry it might default, the market value of those bonds would drop sharply. Next bullet point, when the value of the, quote, safe assets on a bank's balance sheet suddenly plummets, the bank's financial strength and capital are weakened, putting the bank itself at risk. My apologies. You see where this is going? Could this cause bank collapses? The high global public debt and related financial instability warned about by the IMF absolutely could result in bank runs. I wonder if stablecoins would make that a little bit worse, you think? Could result in bank runs and bank collapses. All right, it says here, the core issue is that high government debt creates a fragile environment where banks become more vulnerable to a sudden loss of trust. Sovereign debt stress. When a government, the sovereign, has too much debt, people in financial markets start to worry that the government might not be able to pay its bills. This causes the value of the government's bonds, like U.S. Treasury bonds, to drop significantly. The bank problem. Banks hold massive amounts of these bonds, which they consider the safest asset. When the value of these, quote, safe assets plummets, you see where this is going? The bank's own financial health is suddenly at risk, leading to concerns about its stability. 2, loss of confidence. The news of a potential government default, a major drop in bond prices, or a large bank announcing a big loss can cause the public to panic. So you may want to, if you haven't already, write these down, put them in your phone, save them on a note. If you see this happening, be careful. I mean, this is not financial advice. It's my humble opinion. I would be very careful if I see news of a potential government default, a major drop in bond prices, or a large bank announcing a big loss. And a lot of times you're going to hear about that behind the scenes before you see it in the news. Just like it happened before with the whole SVB thing. You saw all the high net worth people pull their stuff out first. Did you not? Yes. Then everybody else went scrambling to the banks afterward. Right? Right. I don't think it was too good for those people that had their accounts frozen. So it's wise for one to act quickly. Once again, not financial advice. Bank failure. The bank cannot meet the demands of its depositors and is forced to close, meaning a bank collapse. You see how that leads one to the other. So here they title this next section, the global ripple effect. What that means, what that's equivalent to is that word contagion that Christine Lagarde used very, very often in the last 3 years. The problem of high global debt. So now let's focus on that. This is but I'm looking at the U.S. right now very, very quizzically. The problem of high global debt is particularly concerning because of the interconnectedness of banks. They actually use the word contagion. Oh, nice. Okay. Contagion. When one bank fails, depositors at other healthy banks may panic and rush to withdraw their money, leading to a wave of bank runs across the financial system. This is what they're worried about. This is why the entirety of this system is going to be replaced. One, I do hold the possibility that they orchestrate the collapse themselves because of the whole stablecoin thing and it being very risky. But then there's obviously a power that wants to push that anyway, even though a lot of the bank heads are like, wait a minute, this is problematic. People can withdraw their funds at the press of a button, which makes perfect sense. And then, of course, there is account erosion, that other issue. But someone very powerful, or some company, some system very powerful wants to push that. So it's happening. That leads me to believe that there is the possibility that they're setting the system up so that it can be brought down if they should want to at the press of a button, or rather at the pressuring of the media. That's all it would take, is the media and some news. So I keep my eye on that. And I understand that if that happens, then the native cryptos are in play, because they're going to, I don't want to make this video. I said I want to make this video too long, but if I go down that pathway, that requires a lot of explanation there. But liquidity, I'll say this, liquidity, bridge currencies, RWA, they will quadruple anything that they lose when things come down. They'll make a profit on the way up because stable coins now have that particular backing of the regulators and what they're doing in legislation, where they're going to be able to make a profit off of off of stable coins that banks were never able to do. Money that used to go to taxpayers and things like that, or things for taxpayers, will now go into the pockets of stable coin issuers unless that is remedied. So they'll make money on the infiltration, they'll make money on the collapse, they'll make money on the rise of the new financial system through RWA, through the liquidity of the liquidity and the liquidation of the bank coins when they want to. So, I mean, it's unbelievable what's being set up here. So now I'm going to stop there with that. And let's go here. Let's get to just a little bit of Bitcoin news, because I have no idea how long this video is now. And I want to show this. Look at this. This happened faster, much faster than I anticipated. This article is titled, and my apologies, I'm very tired. It's been so busy lately, folks. But I feel like, at least here on the channel, I'm talking about, it's busy in real life, very busy. But I feel like I've been doing a great job on the channel with information. I've been doing the best that I can. That's what my father told me to do. He said, Mick, leave it all out there, leave it all on the mat, give it your all, give it your best. And that's what I've been doing. I've been giving it my absolute best. So I hope everybody's been enjoying this content. But I'm a little tired. So if I'm not so eloquent, my apologies. This article is titled, BTQ Technologies announces quantum safe Bitcoin using NIST standardized post-quantum cryptography. Let's go Bitcoin. Okay, this is very, very good. A global quantum technology company focused on securing mission-critical networks today announced the first successful demonstration of a quantum-resistant Bitcoin implementation using National Institute of Standards and Technology standardized post-quantum cryptography. Bitcoin Quantum Core Release 0.2 replaces Bitcoin's quantum vulnerable ECDSA signatures with NIST-approved ML-DSA module lattice digital signature algorithm, protecting against the emerging quantum threat that places Bitcoin's entire $2.4 trillion market capitalization at risk. The announcement comes as leading quantum computing companies accelerate their timelines for cryptographically relevant quantum computers. Recent industry roadmaps project reaching 1 million qubits by 2030, while quantum researchers are demonstrating substantial reductions in required quantum resources for breaking encryption, with over 6.65 million Bitcoin, $745 billion at current prices immediately attackable due to permanently exposed public keys. The entire value of the Bitcoin network is vulnerable to quantum threats. BTQ's release represents a critical milestone in securing the world's largest cryptocurrency. Quote, the quantum threat to Bitcoin is an existential risk to the entire $2.4 trillion Bitcoin economy, said Oliver Rusey-Newton, CEO of BTQ Technologies. Quote, once quantum computers can break ECDSA signatures, every single transaction becomes vulnerable to interception and theft. While the developer community debates response strategies, we've built and demonstrated a working NIST compliant solution that can protect Bitcoin's full market value today. Boom, boom. Are you not entertained? Let's go Bitcoin. All right, so now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.